Hi. So just a couple things before questions. We were pleased that yesterday the governor announced his trade mission in June to Sweden, and Germany and Norway. One of our first 5 bills was to make investments in the Minnesota Trade Office, and Governor Dayton has made a similar commitment in his budget, and we think that is actually a real place where Minnesota can, where the Minnesota state government can work in partnership with the private sector to really improve our economy over the long term. So we're excited about that. I also just wanted to touch on the hearings next week that Representative Paymar is holding on guns, and just to emphasize a couple of things. First of all, there's going to be no votes on any bills, and he is going to hear, I think, every bill that anybody has introduced this session thus far that deals with gun safety or gun violence, just so that we can have an open and full dialogue on kind of all perspectives on that issue as we move forward. And we look forward next week, next Wednesday, we'll be hosting in the House Chamber Governor Dayton for his State of the State speech. We look forward to hearing more what he has to say about that. And I will turn it over to Senator Sieben.
Good morning. In the Senate, as you know, we're continuing to review the governor's budget, proposals. We had a good hearing on all-day kindergarten, which is one of the Senate's top priorities. Senator Kent and Senator Clausen presented their bills to the committee. The labor contract bill is still moving forward, and depending on how it goes, we anticipate it could be heard on the floor next week. We confirmed 3 different commissioner appointments: Commerce, PCA, and Bowser, and we'll have more confirmations likely this coming week. So overall, I think it was a pretty good week, and happy to take any questions.
Do you know the sense of your caucuses respectively yet on how far they wish to go this session in terms of whether universal background checks, banning certain kinds of weapons, or maybe focusing on mental health issues?
No.
Have you talked about it?
No, we really haven't, and I think this discussion that we'll have next week will be the start of that, because we can get some more of those issues aired out, get public input and public testimony on it, and then we'll see where we move from there. I hope that, and I think that there are actually going to be areas where we're going to get some broad consensus around things we can do that'll make a difference to keep our public places more safe and to deal with the issues of gun violence. But I don't know exactly what the contours of that will look like yet.
And from our perspective, we've had very broad discussions, and different senators are working on different pieces of legislation that they'll announce in the future, and regarding school safety, regarding mental health background checks, things that kind of deal with the issue more on the periphery and not. But I think there will be senators too who will bring up more gun control measures per se, and we'll just have to wait and see how those go.
What are your members telling you they are hearing from constituents, both about the Dayton budget and about other issues that are in play this session? What's the report from the hustings and from the mail and the email, phone calls?
Yeah, well, I think our members have already had some town meetings and heard from folks. I think there's I think when they're hearing general support for some of the spending priorities that the governor has. I mean, investments in education, investments in job creation, the property tax relief. Those things are things that they continue to hear. We've heard for several months now that those are the priorities of Minnesotans. And then they're getting questions about about the details of the budget as they come out, and they're responding to them in appropriately and trying to understand exactly all the details of the budget themselves. But I think people are generally like the direction of the priorities that the governor is making in terms of where he thinks we can build a stronger Minnesota economy, and then clearly there's questions about all the pieces of the tax that will pay for them.
I'd just add that our members have been telling us too that the public has appreciated that it's a fiscally sound budget, that the public seems to be, from the feedback we're getting, that they appreciate that it doesn't rely on shifts or gimmicks as have previous budget proposals that have come through.
What kind of reaction are you getting to the sales tax proposals?
I'd say I've had 2 town halls myself, and people appreciate that when I talked about the sales tax, that the overall rate does go down. And that the average Minnesota family probably won't spend much different amount on sales tax because of the overall sales tax being broadened, but the rate brought down. I'd also add that on the clothing tax, which seems to generate a lot of discussion, people do like that there's a threshold where it starts at $100. So if you buy 3 shirts that total $120, you don't pay sales tax on it. But if you buy 1 jacket that costs $105, you will. So as people, I think, start to understand that too, they're more comfortable that it's trying to be somewhat progressive, and that it doesn't hit low and middle income families quite as much. It's just extending the sales tax to clothing on everyone for every item.
In the committee hearings so far on the budget and tax proposals, the tendency seems to be a lot of Republican criticism and not much, if any, comments from DFL members. What do you make of that?
So I think it depends on the committee and the particular time you're in the committees. You know, the Republicans are clearly asking hard questions about the governor's budget, appropriately so, and we need to get all of that information out so that we truly do understand what's in there. And I think you know, many of our members are also just trying to absorb all the details. I mean, this is a big proposal, and there's a lot of moving pieces to it, and appropriately our members are taking time to kind of dig in and understand exactly what's in the budget and the proposal. And there's lots of things to like in it. I think a lot of our members have looked at those things, but there's also questions that they have, and we're going to work that out over the next couple of months.
Mr. Speaker, have you had a chance to talk to business leaders directly about some of their concerns, and if so, what are you hearing?
I have, and will continue to have over the next couple of next couple of weeks. Surprised at the number of calls I've gotten, maybe in the last week. So you know, what we're hearing is concerns about what this is going to mean for them competitively, trying to understand it. We've also talked about the fact that other things that business leaders have been asking for a long time. You know, aside from taxes, you know, perhaps more than that I hear from business people are the fact that we can't find workers that are qualified to do the jobs that we need to have done. And so they've been asking for a long time, and appreciate the fact that the governor's making an emphasis on education. They've been asking for a reduction in corporate property tax rates and the corporate tax rate, in the upfront sales tax exemption. You know, all of these items which are delivered in the governor's budget, and they understand that. You know, they want to make sure that we understand the impact some of these things may have on their business, and I think, again, appropriately so. That's what the legislative process is all about.
The governor and Commissioner Justin are traveling to Washington next week to look for the BHP funding for Minnesota Care. Are any legislators going to go with them? Are you aware?
Not that I'm aware of.
The capital investment committees in both houses held informational hearings on the capital renovation project. There seems to be consensus in those committees in support. Is that generally true in your caucuses?
Consensus that we should do the 109 million part of. I mean, in the House caucus, we do support that moving forward on that in this budget year, in this session.
And in the Senate, we haven't discussed a specific number as related to the timing of the project as a caucus yet.
Word around the campfire is that there's more support in the Senate caucus than in the House for early voting reforms. Any thoughts?
I'd say that we're real enthusiastic in at least the DFL caucus is to pass early voting. The trick is, and I think I can speak for the House, that Representative Simon said he would like to too, and the crux for both of our caucuses is garnering some Republican support so that it can meet the threshold that any significant election changes need to have bipartisan support. which is something the governor's been very clear about that needs to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.